What is up, everybody? We are rolling audio here today on episode 17 of The Harder Show. I hope you are having an absolutely awesome long weekend. Hopefully you're getting some time for a little relaxation. Hopefully you're getting to spend some time with the fam jam as you're celebrating this Easter long weekend, if you celebrate such a thing, religious or not. And hopefully you're not having to work literally the entire weekend like me. But that's okay, because I still get to see the family and get to spend a little bit of time with my wonderful girlfriend. So everything is coming up, TJ. I got nothing to complain about. I really don't. How are you? I hope you're doing fantastic in your life and all of your going-ons and everything. Thank you so much for hitting that play button and tuning in today to this episode of the podcast. Hope that you enjoyed the last episode, which was the Out of My League episode. Really had I know the guys were really stoked about it, which is awesome. I was very happy that they were stoked about it. Definitely got potentially 3 hanging out episodes out of it. Not recorded, of course, but just planned with them. So that is very cool. Hopefully we'll be able to set that up in the near future. Do not forget that their album is coming out April 2nd. Definitely check that out. I will be sharing it and everything as we get a little closer. But enough about that. I spent a whole podcast talking about Out of My League. Something that I'm taking from that podcast, though, that I'm definitely going to be doing again, is something that a lot of people really thought was cool. I had quite a few people contact me about it, and that was playing songs in the podcast. Playing even in the middle of the podcast or at the end or something like that. That is definitely something I am going to be doing fairly regularly in the future, I think. I want to try and keep it to local bands, unsigned bands, things like that, or just bands that I know. So I may not do it every single episode. Like, for example, today I don't have a song, but potentially next episode I might start doing it the next couple episodes. You never know. But definitely something I'm going to be doing. I already have quite a few song ideas lined up. So if you know of a band whose song you want to hear on here, right here at the Harder Show, or if you have a song that you want me to feature, go ahead and contact me either on the Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter. Preferably Facebook's probably easiest, or you can just go ahead and email me either the file itself, a link to it that I can grab it on, a link to your Dropbox, anything like that. You can go ahead and email that to me. It's at thehardershow, all one word, all lowercase, at gmail.com. So that is for all the people. If you are interested in sending me a song to play, hit me up there. It's something I'm definitely going to be doing in the future. Very cool thing. But enough about all that. Got all my plugging out of the way. Today is a very special day because I finally watched Star Wars The Force Awakens. I know, took me a long time. I put up a status on my personal Facebook there the other night, and people were like, what the hell took you so long? And, it's kind of funny to think about it, but I finally watched it. And I have to say, it was absolutely incredible. I'm probably going to watch it again tonight and the next night and the night after. It's a very good motion picture, very good in the Star Wars series. I have no idea. The people who talk smack about it, I don't know why they did. I really don't. Just people that like to troll shit and that, but it was awesome. I was a little afraid to watch the movie. And really the only reason why was because I was worried it was going to suck. The second I heard that J.J. Abrams was directing it, I was like, okay, like, he's a good director. as far as action sequences and things of that nature. I wasn't worried about that. I knew it was going to be action packed. I figured it might be a little more faster paced action and that kind of thing, but I was really worried about the actual story and the characters and bringing in new characters and that. Like, I was really, really worried because I was just like, like, I don't know, like, how well he's going to do. And it's Star Wars. I love Star Wars. I have loved Star Wars ever since I was a child. A lot of my childhood is Star Wars. So obviously I was kind of afraid for that. And I saw that they were bringing back, of course, Mark Hamill, Carrie Fisher, and Harrison Ford, all reprising their original roles of Luke, Leia, and Han. And I was kind of like, what are they going to do with that? Like, what? Like, I don't know. I wasn't really feeling the whole thing. And so I put off seeing it. Bunch of my friends saw it and they were like, dude, you need to see it. Like, you're going to love it. And I was like, yeah, I know. Maybe eventually. And I heard all this stuff about it, and I heard all these spoilers and everything, and I was like, should I even watch it now? The biggest spoiler of them all, I already called when I saw that this particular actor was reprising his role, Mr. Harrison Ford. I knew what was going to happen. I'm going to say it right now. If you have not seen The Force Awakens, pause this podcast. No, just spoiler alert. Okay, that's all I'm saying. Spoiler alert right now. This is the only one you are getting throughout the whole podcast. If you have not seen The Force Awakens, do not listen to this podcast because I am talking in full about a few things that happened that I wanted to discuss. Okay? You have been warned. But back to what I was talking about. So I was kind of putting off seeing it, and then just finally, the other day, I just bit the bullet and finally watched it. And right off the bat, the first thing I noticed was a much darker, more intense version of Star Wars from what we as a fan base are used to. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. Opening scene, I'm not going to sit here and describe every scene or anything, but just like, opening scene, Mr. Badass himself, Mr. Poe Dameron is having a meeting with that village leader guy, and they're talking about the Matt, Luke Skywalker, and all this stuff. And then the stormtroopers come, and it's like a scene out of a war movie. Like, just the stormtroopers come out and they're badass and they look badass, and they're hitting people. They're not like the lame stormtroopers from the original Star Wars who can't hit a freaking side of a barn. They're actually like legit good soldiers and everything. And there's a big fight sequence and people are just dying left, right, and center, and you're like, whoa. And like, I said it out loud to myself. I'm like, damn, like, this is a little bit more brutal than I thought it was going to be. And, not that it was overly brutal or anything, just I was really surprised. And just, Poe takes off, of course, into his X-Wing, and, they blow out the back of his X-Wing, and you're like, oh shit, like, what's going to happen? And, he starts fighting them off, and he starts picking them off with his blaster, and he sends BB-8 off, and just a really cool opening sequence. That first scene really dug in, and that's where you first see Poe, of course, who is like a total badass. I'll get into him in a few minutes. And that's the first time you see, well, you don't know it's him, but it's the first time you see Finn. And he's in battle, but he's not shooting. And, one of his fellow comrades dies and gets shot, and they, put his hand on his helmet and his hand run down, and it's all bloody. And it's just, you can tell it just messes Finn right up. And it's like the second I saw that, I was like, damn, that is dark. Like, that's not what I'm used to seeing in a Star Wars movie, really. And, then, of course, the First Order wins the battle and everything, and then out comes Mr. Kylo Ren, the new Dark Lord, who's apparently not a Sith. Excuse me. I was doing a little bit of reading today, and apparently he's not a Sith Lord, so I'm going to try not to refer to him as one. To me, he was a Sith Lord, but apparently he's not, so we're not going to get into that. But he comes out, and, when he strikes down that village leader, it's like brutal and it's with just anger, and it's like, whoa, like this is right off the bat. I was like, this is going to be a lot more intense and dark than I thought it was going to be, and I liked it. I really did. Um, Obviously, right off the bat, you kind of feel for Finn. They ran up all the villagers, and then they're like, sir, what should we do with them? And kill them all. And he leaves, and then, they're all the stormtroopers are shooting all the innocent villagers. Not all of them, I guess, are technically innocent, but, um, they're shooting them all, and Finn won't fire his gun. And you see Kylo Ren look at him from across the battlefield, and it's just like, and you really start feeling for Finn. Um, right off the bat. And that's kind of how they introduce him as this character who, he's in this life that he technically never chose, and he's has morals, and he doesn't want to do this anymore, and he wants to run. And you're like, I totally understand why. You feel for him in a really big way right off the bat. And it's like, man, like, I want this guy to get what he wants and get out of there and, live his life and so forth. He wants to help people. It's the right thing to do. He says it to Poe when he breaks him out. And also in that opening sequence, we kind of get to know a little bit about Mr. Poe Dameron, the ultimate badass, as I call him. He's probably one of my favorite characters in the movie. And he's not even really like a major character. Finn is a really good character. I really like his character. I like how he's, he is a badass and everything, and, but he's also like, he has moments where he's like running away and he's maybe scared, and at one point in the movie, it's just like, are you ready? He's like, hell no. And at times he kind of provides this bit of comic relief, which is really cool. The fact that I was kind of laughing a couple times in the movie, I didn't expect that either. But at the end of the whole thing, Finn he's in this life he's never chosen, and he's seen some shit. And, he doesn't want to live that life anymore. He wants to run, but I think, the main thing is deep down inside, he wants to do the right thing and help people, which is a very admirable character trait to have. But when he first meets up with Poe and he gets him out and everything, and they're in the TIE fighter, and they form this instant bromance, and it's like this ultimate bromance, and it's so funny because it forms so quickly, and it like the bond they get is like so crazy. I mean, hey, I'd want to be bros with Poe too. He's a badass. You see it in that opening sequence where, when he's being tortured by Kylo Ren, and he's like, tell me everything. He's just like, he's not telling him shit. He's a badass. And you realize, Kylo says, I didn't realize we had the best pilot in the Resistance and everything. And you're like, ooh, like he's a really good pilot. And I was just, really into the whole thing. And, obviously that bromance, they crash land on Jakku, and, Finn thinks that Poe met his demise in the sinking sands, and he's all bummed out. And he goes and he runs into the I consider her the main character of the movie. Really, it was kind of weird. I wasn't sure what to expect. Like, obviously the main characters of the movie are Rey and Finn, and it kind of follows them, and then obviously Han and Chewie and Poe and all those guys. But I really feel like out of the whole movie, the character that kind of came out of it looking the best and had the best story and everything was Rey, which was really cool. I was not expecting what we were given with Rey. Even the first time we see Rey, she's a scavenger. And she's, looking for parts and stuff and trying to sell them to make a living. And you find she's waiting for her family who, you find out they abandoned her there. And, she ends up helping BB-8. So right off the bat, you see, okay, this is a person who she's a scrapper. But has morals. She saved BB-8 and that. And, like, she has respect and she's a good person. She's just trying to make a living by being a scrapper and a scavenger. And just right off the bat, I was like, I like her. Like, she's good. And, the first time that Finn sees her, she's literally fighting off two guys who are attacking her. And it's like, one of the coolest things, probably one of the coolest things about Rey is the fact that there's a couple times in the movie where she kind of falls into this damsel in distress thing. But she rescues herself, if that makes sense. And it happens a couple times, and it's so cool. Like, and that's exactly what I think Star Wars needed to do. I was kind of worried that Rey would end up like I knew like okay like everyone's like oh like Rey's a badass, Rey's a badass. I'm like okay cool, but like when is she gonna go damsel in distress at some point, right? Because I was like they're gonna do that at some point, I'm sure, and they kind of did. But then Rey rescues herself technically, so it's like hey that's cool. Um, Obviously there's so much speculation on who she is. Obviously you find out that she is very force sensitive and she's very strong in the force, using Jedi mind tricks and that, and being able to keep Kylo Ren out of her mind and getting into his mind is crazy. That was such an awesome scene. The first meeting between those two. Just a really cool thing. And so there's all this speculation on who she really is. A lot of people have said, oh, like, that girl's got to be a Skywalker. She's either Luke's daughter or she's somehow related to Leia. Maybe she's Leia Hand's daughter. She's Obi-Wan's daughter. There's all this speculation. And I don't think she's anyone's daughter in particular. I feel like in the next movie, her family and her backstory are going to come into play in a massive way. I don't think she's Luke's daughter. There are traits that she has that are of Luke and of Han and that. So you can maybe see why people think that. If she's anything, I think she's a Skywalker. There was even at one point in the movie where I was like, that girl's a Skywalker. I don't know why, I was like, that girl's a Skywalker. There's no way. Like, she's got to be. She has all the traits of, there's traits I see in her of Luke and of Anakin. But kind of in her own way, But regardless of who she is, the number one thing we need to remember with Rey is the fact that she naturally is gifted with the Force. So that is definitely a big thing. So she's definitely, I would say, the daughter of a Jedi, a very powerful Jedi. Hopefully we find out in the next Star Wars. Like I said, I feel like her family's going to come into play in a very, very big way. Not sure how, but... And I think one of the other coolest things about her is the fact that one thing that kind of bothered me with the movie, the only thing really complaint I have, was to do with Finn. And that was when he found the lightsaber and, he was using it in that battle. And, like, he's using this lightsaber and he's, like, using it like he's a friggin' Jedi Master. And I'm like, yo, like, what the, like, he's never even, has he even used a melee weapon before? Maybe stormtroopers are all trained with that weird thing that one dude had. So maybe that's why he's so good with it. But, like, at one point when he's fighting Kylo Ren at the end of the movie, like, he's, like, fighting him and, like, doing pretty good. And I'm like, what the fuck? Like, it didn't really make any sense for him, I think, because, like, he doesn't seem to be force sensitive. He doesn't seem to be anything like that. So why is he magically so good with a lightsaber? I'm sure that you can't just pick one of those things up and be good with it. But then you see Rey use one at the end of the movie, and obviously moving back a little bit, when the lightsaber calls out to her and she finds it and she has those visions and that, it's a very cool sequence. But you it's like, okay, like, again, there's Jedi in her somewhere. She wouldn't be having visions like that if she wasn't. She's definitely strong with the Force, but there's something there. I'm really excited to see what happens with her because I think she's an absolute badass. I think that they've built her character perfectly. At the end of the movie, when her and Kylo have that little lightsaber duel, and she looked natural at it, but in the sense of you could still tell like she didn't look invincible, which was really cool. With some training, obviously she would be a great Jedi. So we'll see what happens. that's really all I gotta say about Ray. Very cool. The actress who played her did an amazing job. I don't know her name, Daisy something. I can't remember her name, but she did amazing. I know I read that some people thought that she did a terrible job acting, and I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, what the hell? She did great. So I don't know, but very very cool character. And then obviously, um, basically, all I really have to talk about is a few kind of things I noted from some characters and from the movie, and some things that I just thought were cool and kind of reacting from them. And one of the things in the movie that made me smile the most, obviously, the bond that Finn and Ray kind of instantly get is pretty cool. Um, it's I wouldn't really call it a budding romance. At first, I was kind of like, well, they're obviously going to put them together, and when they're on Jakku running from the TIE fighters and that, Finn keeps grabbing her hand and stuff, and like she even says, like she's just like, stop grabbing my hand. Like it's kind of cool how they do it. Like they're really making Ray a badass, and that's cool. And they're kind of making Finn like yeah, Finn's a badass and everything, but like he's kind of like this like lovable. Um, I don't want to say goof at times, but like he's just like I feel like he wants to be the hero. Um, but like you know, Ray doesn't need a hero, basically. Um, obviously that's a cool sequence and everything, and they get out of that. Obviously, they when they found the Millennium Falcon, that really made me smile because I was like, oh, like what's the story with this? Why is the Millennium Falcon here? And she's just like, okay, we'll take this piece of junk or whatever. Then they get picked up by that ship, and I'm like, man, like they're already coming face to face with Kylo Ren in their first order. Like, what the hell? They hide in the thing, and they're gonna flood the ship with the poisonous gas and everything. And then in walks Han Solo and Chewbacca. Chewie, we're home. And it was such a cool moment. I was just, oh man, I was so like, oh man, it's Han. And I didn't think I'd be so excited. Um, Obviously, I was a big fan of Han Solo and his character and everything in the original Star Warses, but I was more of a Luke Skywalker guy, if that's you know what I mean. I was always more of a Jedi guy. Um, but obviously, I always loved his character, and it was really cool to see him again. And they come in and they meet. They find Rey and Finn, and they take back their ship. And right off the bat, you can tell, okay, this has been a long 30 or so years for Han Solo. You can see it in his face. Um, he's kind of grizzled, but he still has that scoundrel rebel in him. He's smuggling those big creatures and that. And, the friggin' gang has come and he tries to talk his way out of it and can't and all this crap. And um, right off the bat, you just know, okay, like even with his age, he's still an absolute badass, which is cool because I didn't know what to expect, especially from Han Solo. I knew that he was kind of the main character as far as from the original three that were in this. I know that we didn't see Leia a whole lot, and I knew that we didn't see Luke until like the end of the movie. Um, so it was really cool how they did it. Them escaping the ship and everything, and kind of this instant bond that he forms with Rey. Seeing how good she is with ships and stuff, which makes me think even more that she's a Skywalker. Okay, so there's some Anakin Skywalker in there somewhere. Um, and then how she pots Millennium Falcon and everything, and like just he instantly likes this person, which does bring up more questions about her past. Well, he's bonding with this girl. Is she maybe a long lost daughter he didn't know existed, or is she actually a Skywalker? You know, you don't know. Um, and Han only helps with that. Um, And at first he doesn't really want to help, and he takes him to go see Maz there, and then he ends up, kind of wanting to help them. It's really a cool thing in the sense of just like when we first meet Han Solo, he's just this scoundrel smuggler, and he doesn't want to really help anybody, but he's willing to do it for the money or whatever. And then he kind of turns a corner and is like, no, like I got to help these people. I got to get them to Leia and stuff. And he goes, takes them to go meet Leia and the members of the Resistance. And it's the first time we see General Organa. And you see right off the bat, the second Han and Leia say each other, like it's still this. Obviously, like Leia is, she's very just weary and grizzled and just almost tired looking. Like you can tell that she's just, again, it's been a very long 30 years for her too. And they talk about their son and blah 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 blah, and you find out that Kylo Ren is their son, and that was a really cool twist. I did not. I mean, like, unfortunately, I knew that before I watched the movie just because of spoilers and shit, but I wouldn't have guessed that, of course. Um, I knew that Kylo Ren was a very unique, dark Jedi, we'll call him, but I didn't know quite to what extent. So obviously, Han volunteers to help. They're gonna go destroy this, the ultimate weapon that they've built and everything. And obviously says to Leia, I saw her son and blah 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 blah. And she's just like, you're his father. Like maybe you can help him. And obviously he's willing to do anything he can to help his son, which unfortunately was a big mistake. It was his downfall. Han and Chewie go to E and set the charge and everything to blow up the station. And he sees Kylo, and he wants to help him. He wants to save his son. It's a very admirable thing. Deep down inside, yeah, Han Solo's this badass rebel who's gonna blow up this station, but that's his son. He loves his son. He wants to help his son. He just wants his son back, and he calls him out by his name, Ben, which is interesting. Ben Solo. Probably named after Ben Kenobi, I would assume, but I'm not sure. And it's this scene, and this scene that unfolds in front of us on the big screen of Han going to his son and just, you don't need that mask, take it off. And he takes it off and he's looking his son in the eye and just, I know there's still good in you. I know it's in there. You're my son. And Kylo Ren, who we do learn is having these feelings of light coming back to him, and he wants to try and destroy them permanently. I'll talk more about Kylo Ren in a bit here, but and he says, like, I want this to end. I want this pain and suffering to end, and and Han just, he has this look in his eyes where he's just like, you see the love in his eyes for his son, and he just says to him, can you help me? And Han's just like, anything. And, friggin' Kylo Ren hands him his lightsaber. And for a split second, I was like, wait, does Han not get killed? Does Kylo not actually kill him? Because I guess that's who killed him. I didn't know for sure. All I knew was Han died. That's all I knew that happened. But I heard a lot of bullshit about this movie, so I was like, maybe that's not what happens. And you see this look in Han's eyes and Kylo's eyes, and you see almost for a second where like Kylo, like he has this look in his eyes, and you're like, oh man, like there's good in there maybe. And then he turns his goddamn lightsaber on and stabs Han right through the chest. And then he whispers to him, thank you. And then he lets Han Solo fall to his death. Well, technically he would have probably already been dead from the lightsaber wound, but if there's any chance of Han Solo being alive, it is gone when he fell down that shaft. And I, I didn't really know how to feel at that exact moment. Like Rey screams, and it's almost like you find that she almost feels like Han is like the father she never had and everything. Um, she screams and starts crying, and Finn kind of starts pulling her away, like we have to go, we have to go. And Kylo sees them, and then friggin' Chewie, he lets out this agonizing yell, and he friggin' shoots Kylo with his bowcaster right in the damn chest. And of course, Kylo takes it like a badass, just kind of like. And Chewie just starts fucking taking out people, and I was like, oh my god, like no. Like I was emotional when Han died, 'cause I'm like, that's like someone from my childhood, when Chewie's running through and he's taking out stormtroopers left and right, and then he runs into this little room and he pulls out the detonator. And I started bawling my eyes out, okay? I was like, I might even start crying right now. I was just like, no, Chewie, like, no, oh my god, no. And he presses the button and boom, whole station blows up. Um, Finn and Rey make it out, of course, but I was uh, I was very distraught. I had to actually pause the movie because I had to kind of collect myself. In one fell swoop, Han Solo was killed by his son, which is like the ultimate tragedy. Han Solo, this legendary smuggler who could talk his way out of anything and who survived countless gunfights and battles and situations that would have killed any other person. And he survived all this stuff into old age and that. And he gets killed by his son when he's just trying to help him. And his son just kills him in cold, cold blood. And it's just, the look in Han's eyes when Kylo does it. It's just like this look of like, it's obviously of betrayal and hurt, but it's like, just, oh my God, I can't even, like, I can't even explain it. Just, it breaks my heart. And then I still can't even, like, just, Chewie lets out that friggin' yell, and it's like, I can't. I thought Chewie was dead, Han's dead. What now? Then friggin' they get out, and of course Kylo was waiting for them, um, which is a good segue into me discussing some points that I thought about Mr. Kylo Ren. I'll kind of get into more about the thoughts of mine in the movie and stuff more when I talk about Kylo, but Kylo Ren, probably just going to refer to him as Ren, so I don't have to say his full name every single time I want to refer to him, is he might possibly be the best Star Wars antagonist, villain, evil dude we've ever seen. There's a lot of them in this movie that are really good. Obviously, the general dude whose name escapes me right now, he's a really good villain. Him and Kylo kind of have this weird relationship where it's almost like they're like bickering and at each other's throats and stuff. So that's kind of interesting. I'm kind of curious as to what happens there and what's the deal with that. Um, Obviously, he's the one of the leader of the First Order, or at least the general of the First Order, and just a very good bad guy. You can just see it, and obviously, the Supreme Leader. We'll get into him in a little bit. But out of all of them, the thing that is most interesting about Kylo, right off the bat, is the way he looks. You look at him and you go, that's a pretty intimidating looking dude. I saw he had a mask and everything. And I went, oh, so like, he's like Vader. Obviously, something has happened to him in his life that causes him to need that mask. And he looks badass as shit with it. But then you find out, no. He doesn't actually need the mask. He's just wearing it because he friggin' wants to. He wants to be like Darth Vader. And the first time you see him without that mask on is when he's holding Rey, and she says, it's just some creep in a mask or whatever, and he takes the mask off, and you realize he's a normal looking dude. He's a normal human being who just happens to be fucking ridiculously strong with the Force, as he shows by literally like just paralyzing Rey, putting her to sleep. He friggin' stops blaster fire. He friggin' mind tricks people left, right, and center to get information he wants, and just you tell he's a very strong Jedi with the Force, but he's still a very normal person by the looks of it. Um, and then some people have complained. Some people have complained that he looks emo and he looks wimpy, and I'm just like, man, what the fuck? It's 2016, okay? Do you think if some dude came in out looking like Darth Vader today, it would get over as much as Kylo did? I don't think so, in my opinion. I think he looks perfect the way he is with or without his mask. Because the number one thing with him is you learn about his backstory and almost like the tragicness of it and the sadness of it, because he's Leia and Han's son, and when he was born, obviously he was naturally strong with the Force, so Luke wanted to train him, and from what we understand, he betrayed Luke and basically took down, I guess, all the Jedi that he was training, and turned to the dark side. And clearly he was obviously an emotionally unstable kid, for whatever reason, and it's what and it's what makes him such an interesting character. Most this just ruthlessly emotional and unstable person who is extremely powerful. Why would you want to mess with him? His just uncontrollable rage that he just lets out, you know? And you see it with his lightsaber, and that was a really cool thing. First time you see Kylo's lightsaber, it's a very unstable looking beam. It's very fiery, and he has those two exhaust ports on the side, kind of making it like a like the guards on it there, kind of making it like a big claymore. And so many people thought that it looked so stupid, and I don't understand why. His lightsaber looks badass and it suits him. I know that J.J. Abrams said in an interview, like, his lightsaber shows his personality. It's an unstable beam. He built it himself. It's unstable. It makes really loud hissing sounds when he waves it, and it's very, powerful. But it's unstable, which is just a really cool thing that I noticed about it. But people calling him wimpy and like he's an emo and all this stuff, and I don't see it that like that. The number one thing with him is the fact that the number one thing you need to understand is what makes a good Sith, or excuse me, not Sith, but a dark Jedi. Well, you got to look at what Jedi aren't allowed to do. Emotion. He's full of them. Hatred, anger, suffering. These are all things that if you start, it's a chain reaction. And obviously something happened in his life that caused him to start going down that path. And, I'm interested to see what that is. I'm sure we will learn more about it in future Star Warses. Fear, anger, hate, suffering. And you can tell he's suffering. He's angry. And, I guess him killing his father apparently may help with that. I don't know what it is. I don't know if Han did something to cause him to go off the deep end or what. At this point, I can only speculate that must be what it was. But just people, oh, he has daddy issues and he's just a big whiny crybaby. And I'm like, how is he a crybaby? How is he a wimp? This dude, like one thing people say is, well, he throws temper tantrums. Okay, sure. When the one guy goes up to him and lets him know that they didn't get the droid, and he friggin' literally like destroys the console that's in front of him with his lightsaber. He just like hacks the shit out of it. Just lets out all his anger right there, whatever's in front of him, and then just calmly, is there anything else? And you're like, oh my god, like this guy's friggin' insane, and he's unstable, and he's unpredictable, which is what makes him so dangerous. Someone like, say, who's a good Count Dooku, Tyrannus. Very calm individual. Obviously, he was much, much older when he turned to the dark side, but still, very calm individual, very intelligent individual, soft-spoken, very, his lightsaber style was very kind of precise, but it reflected him. And, obviously he was a great Sith, but comparing him to, say, Darth Vader, who kind of had a similar sense in the fact that, he was obviously very powerful in the Force, very good lightsaber, but you kind of take all of that and mixing with Darth Sidious, and you put them all up against Kylo, and he has elements of all of them. And all those guys, you could pretty much know what they were going to do. You know what I mean? Someone like a Count Dooku, you knew what he was going to do. Like, he's not someone who you could not telegraph. Darth Vader, you knew what he was going to do. He was someone, maybe he had, he definitely had some rage issues in that, I'm sure, but you pretty much knew what he was going to do. Darth Sidious, maybe a little more unpredictable, because he was the friggin' like supreme Dark Lord of the Sith or whatever. But Kylo is like, you don't know. I didn't think he was going to kill Han for a second. I really didn't. I was like, oh, maybe not. And then just fucking, and it's like, this dude is angry, unstable, and unpredictable. And I cannot stress that enough. That makes him dangerous and possibly the most fearsome dark Jedi Sith bad guy dude we've ever seen. Especially under the leadership of Supreme Leader Snork. Like, I'm not sure what he is in all this. I'll get to him in a second, but Kylo definitely. It's almost a. You also see it in his fighting style. He's still precise. I almost like. You take Darth Vader's fighting style and like Darth Sidious's fighting style, and you put them together, and you basically get Kylo's style with a little bit of his own thing, obviously. Very aggressive. Like, the only time we ever see Darth Sidious really fight is when he's going against Yoda, which is kind of a bad example, but like when he dispatches, when in episode 3, when Mace Windu and the other Jedi Council members, masters, go to try and arrest Darth Sidious, you look at how he takes them out, and it's such aggression and violentness and just, like he's just hacking through them like nothing. And I mean, obviously, he's a very powerful Sith Lord, but like that aggressiveness mixed with, Darth Vader's more kind of slower, precise style. You see that a lot in Kylo, but also, hints of his own thing. The fact that Kylo, he still has that good in him. He says it like, he's just like, I still feel this good and that, and I know that Supreme Leader, yuck, he feels it, and Snoke, and he feels it and everything, and he's trying to get rid of it. Like, that's almost the most messed up thing. He wants to be bad. He wants to finish what his grandfather started, Darth Vader started. And Leia even said she's just like, there's too much Vader in him. And that's an interesting way to put it. But I think the most interesting thing about it too is at the end of it all, Darth Vader did the right thing. Darth Vader saved his son. Like, so I'm kind of interested to see where that leads, because I feel like they kind of painted Darth Vader to be a lot more evil. I mean, he was evil, don't get me wrong, he was horrible, but at the end of everything, he did do the right thing. So I'm interested to see what happens with this character. Kind of very, still a very tragic character at the end of the day. You almost feel bad for him. When you kind of learn all about his past and stuff, but then like as time goes on, you're like, okay, never mind. I don't feel bad for this asshole. And the final fight that he has with Rey, obviously, you know, she is definitely a Jedi and she's definitely powerful and she's going to be powerful. And he knows this. He lost the fight with her in that lightsaber duel they have. He lost. She could have killed him if the Earth hadn't separated. And she got him right across the face with her lightsaber. Now he has that nasty scar. And I can only imagine how even more ruthless and aggressive and just angry he is going to be the next time we see him. It's going to be really interesting to see where they go with him. The number one thing I wanted to make with this podcast, other than just giving my thoughts on a few things of the movie, is anyone who thinks Kylo Ren is not a complete badass, be like, oh, well, he lost the fight with Rey and Finn. Yeah, after being shot in the fucking stomach with a bowcaster. Okay? Those friggin' bowcaster shots send stormtroopers flying and takes out like 6 or 7 stormtroopers. Kylo takes a shot to the chest with one of those, and you know what he does? He hits himself because he's kind of not feeling that great there. He's like, oh, like, and you're like, what the hell? Like, the amount of pain that guy must be in, and he's fighting like nothing's wrong. And, obviously not taking into the effect too that, like, Rey obviously is naturally a gifted Jedi, so anyone who thinks Rey is a wimp or not a badass, you need to rethink your friggin' point, and you need to watch the movie again. Okay? No one else in that movie, okay, let's say Darth Vader's fighting Rey right now, okay? Chewie walks up and shoots him in the friggin' stomach with a bowcaster. How do you think he's going to react? Probably going to keep fighting. Why is it any different when Kylo does it? He's a badass. I don't know what else to tell you. Just badass, powerful, unpredictable, ruthless, unstable. Cannot wait to see what more they do with him. I guess really the last thing I wanted to talk about here is this Supreme Leader dude. There's a lot of questions on who this guy is. We don't see a whole lot of him. What we see seems to be a hologram. He seems to be this big figure and all this stuff, and you can tell he's very messed up looking and definitely evil, definitely powerful on the dark side of the Force. Is he a Sith? Apparently he isn't. Is he someone we've seen before? I don't know. Is he someone from the past? Is he someone who was at one point a Sith Lord who denounced it? Is he friggin' Darth Sidious, perhaps? Maybe he didn't die? Who is he? We don't know. All we know is that he's in control of the First Order. But just exactly how in control is this guy? We don't really know. Obviously, Kylo and General Hux guy, they answer to him. But if they wanted to, could they overthrow him? Like, what's the deal with that? He's a character that I have the most questions about, which I think is the point. um, we were meant to have questions about him and speculate, and that's something that this movie did so amazing. Was it left us with questions, and it left us to speculate on our own, however we wanted, about him, about what's going to happen with Kylo, about what's going to happen with Finn. When we leave the movie, Finn's unconscious. He's alive and he's okay, but he's unconscious. Rey leaves and she goes and finds Luke. The last scene we see is her standing on a cliff with Luke, handing him his lightsaber. What's going to happen there? Like, there's all these questions. There are some people who, I've read some stuff online saying that they don't think that Han's dead. And that's a load of bullcrap. The man took a lightsaber through the friggin' chest and then fell. He dead, okay? If he's not dead, I'm going to be actually really disappointed, because it's sad as hell and everything, but it's like, man, he's dead, okay? And the only thing I really cared about, to be honest with you, is that Chewie isn't dead, okay? Chewie is okay, you know? I had tears of joy when friggin' the Millennium Falcon comes up and you see Chewie in the cockpit. I was like, yeah, Chewie's okay. Very cool. Obviously, when Rey returns without Han and Chewie's there, you see the look on Leia's face, and she knows he's already gone. When he gets stabbed, it cuts to the scene of her, and she like falls over, she can feel it and everything, and it's just very tragic, but a cool thing to see Rey kind of obviously take over the Millennium Falcon, with Chewie as her co-pilot, which is very cool. Hopefully we'll see more of Mr. Chewie in the future. A lot of speculation. This podcast has pretty much been me speculating about some stuff, me talking about some things I thought were cool in the movie, mostly characters. I had a few more things I wanted to talk about, but mainly that's what I wanted to discuss. Some other small things, but nothing serious. Stuff that doesn't really even need to be mentioned. Very, very well done movie. I cannot wait for the next one. The next one, when it comes out, I'll be seeing it the week it comes out, okay? Like, I'm not going to wait around like I did for this one. Very, very good. I have to thank Mr. John Ward of Beyond the Wall for actually giving me the idea to talk about this. I was kind of discussing it in my status there yesterday, and he's just like, why don't you do a harder show on it? So I have to thank him for giving me this idea. Whenever I have John on the show, we'll definitely have to talk Star Wars, as I know he's a Star Wars fan. So thank you, John, for giving me this idea. Hopefully you've enjoyed it. Hopefully you guys have all enjoyed it. Talking about Star Wars, talking about the movie. Fun thing, obviously, I love my Star Wars. I am going to continue to speculate a lot of things on my own. I'm going to continue to defend Kylo Ren's badassery. And I'm going to continue to look forward to the next movie, because I think this new kind of reboot of the franchise is going to be very good. I'm actually hoping it sticks around for a while. I would not be against seeing a whole bunch of new Star Wars movies. I really wouldn't. I think it's a series that has so much left to give, so long as they do it properly, and it seems like they are. So we'll see what happens. But that is going to be it for me today, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in and hitting that play button on this Star Wars The Force Awakens kind of discussion / review. Hit me up. Let me know what you guys saw in the movie. Let me know on some of your guys' speculations about some things I've talked about. I'd love to hear about them. And I will catch you guys next time on The Hodder Show. Thanks so much.